How did my daughter's 6th grade homeschool year go? Stick around and I'll share. Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is Homeschool with the Clarks. This past school year, I homeschooled kids in 8th grade, 6th grade, 3rd grade, and TK. Today, I want to chat about how my daughter's 6th grade homeschool year went. If you want to watch our curriculum picks video from the beginning of the year, I'll make sure to link it above, and then you can take a look at that as well. I did watch it just to remember what I said I was planning on using and what I shared at the beginning of the year so I could compare it to the end of the year, and I'm ready to dig in with you. Okay, I'm gonna start with English. We actually used 2 different resources for English. The first one was Essentials in Writing, or EIW. If you've been around my channel for a while, you know that we really like EIW. I have shared about it several times, and if you're curious about it, I'll make sure that I link my playlist all about EIW so you can check out those videos. She did EIW level 8, and EIW covers grammar and composition. It is not a full language arts curriculum, but it's really good at what it does. The way that it's set up is it's the first half of the year is grammar and the second half of the year is writing composition, but I didn't want to do it that way. And so what I ended up doing is having her jump back and forth section by section. I didn't have her have to plan that out. I just gave her the lesson assignments for the week. So it wasn't any more burden on her. It was just me planning, and it was really, really easy to plan and implement. And I felt like it went well going between the grammar and writing. Now, there is writing involved in the grammar, but it's more along the lines of copying down work to edit it and write it correctly. And she did do a lot of that on the computer. I allowed her to type whatever she wanted. And so she typed a lot of that, and then she would just print it out and glue it into her book. And that worked really well for us. I feel like she had a really great grammar year and grasped the concepts that they introduced. For the composition, I was very happy with how it went. We also had done it in 5th grade, and we only did the composition over the course of a semester and didn't get to quite everything. And so this year I knew that I wanted her to get to the research paper, and I am happy to say that we made it to the end. We got to the research paper. She had lots of fun with it. The topic was your favorite fast food restaurant, but you weren't allowed to pick KFC because the person who does the videos picked KFC in his little spiel in his demonstration. But she picked Chick-fil-A. She learned all about the history of Chick-fil-A and the history of their famous sandwich. And it was just a really fun way for her to learn how to research, learn how to cite her sources, and put together a research paper. At the beginning of the year, I had shared that we were also going to be using Moving Beyond the Page, their 6th grade level, which is ages 10 to 12, and that I was also planning on having her do the writing assignments with Beyond the Page, and I didn't. That ended up being, it was going to be too much. And so I don't know what I was thinking with that. Even though she's been having a lot of fun with writing, it would have just been too much. And so what we did is I obviously had her do the reading assignments. I had her do the comprehension questions. Every book had at least 1 day of vocabulary, sometimes 2. She always did the vocabulary assignments. And then I would have her do 1 assignment for each lesson. If you've used Beyond the Page before, you know, but if you haven't, they usually have 3 or 4 assignments for each lesson, and each lesson is generally supposed to be a day unless it specifies 2 days. And it can be a lot. Even if you're not using a separate writing curriculum, it can be a lot of work. And I've learned to make it work for us because we don't work for the curriculum. We make the curriculum work for us. And so the way that we did that is we just picked an assignment to go with each lesson. Oftentimes she would want to do more of the creative stuff, and so I really leaned into that. If they had an artsy, crafty kind of creative project for the day, that is generally what I had her do because she enjoys them and it makes it fun and it motivates her to want to get the work done and do a good job. The only time that we did not use that method for Beyond the Page was they did have a poetry unit, and every day they learned about a different type of poetry and had to write a poem. And then it was compiled into a poetry book at the end. I did have her do those writing assignments. I looked through for those weeks that she was on the poetry unit. I kind of cut back a little bit on the EIW. I create a 1-page assignment sheet for the week for each of my kids every week with the specific lessons I want them to complete. And I just cut back on the EIW depending on the poetry day. because I wanted her to have time to be able to really dig in and create those poems. And she absolutely loved it. We were so happy with Beyond the Page. I really like the book selections. I feel like they have a very good way of varying the assignments. The comprehensions are really great. Comprehension questions, excuse me. You don't necessarily have to have your kids write in the answers, especially if they're younger. You can totally do them verbally or even skip them and just have a conversation about what they read. It's very, very flexible if you are willing to make it flexible for yourself. The next thing that I chatted about at the beginning of the year was cursive. We had been using the Good and the Beautiful cursive, and she knew how to write in cursive, and I wanted to find like a fun cursive book, ideally with like cats as the subject or in the pictures or something. I never did find anything like that. I couldn't find anything that really would have wowed her. And so we just did the Good and the Beautiful cursive again, and she finished it, and she asked to not do cursive next year, and that's fine. She's competent in cursive. She can sign her name. She can really write anything I ask her to write in cursive. But my goal with cursive is you can sign your name and you can read it. She can do both of those things. We're good. I was happy with that. Moving on to math. So for math in her 6th grade year, she used Saxon Math level 6-5. And alongside that, we used Nicole the Math Lady. And the way that Nicole the Math Lady works is she has pre-recorded videos. You have to log into her online portal. She has pre-recorded videos teaching the lesson. And then you use the Saxon textbook to do the problems. And they have it set up so that you can have your child assigned to do all of the mixed, because it's like you do the lesson, you do a few problems pertaining to the lesson, and then they have like a spiral review, which they call mixed practice. And on mixed practice, you can set it for them to do all of the problems, or they can do just evens or just odds. Like it matches up to the lesson. So if they're doing lesson 111, they would do the odd lesson. If they were doing lesson 112, they would do the even problems. We had her do just like the even odds. So like half of the mixed review practice, just because that's how we've done it. That's how I did it with my son. And I feel like she was successful in her 6th grade year. It was not an issue having her do half the problems. I didn't want her to be doing math for 2 hours every day. Her biggest complaint is she says that she doesn't like Nicole the Math Lady. She doesn't like her video. She doesn't like the way she teaches. And I think part of that is actually Saxon, because Saxon uses an incremental approach where they will teach a concept, and then the next time they teach the concept, they're teaching the same concept, but then they're digging in a little bit deeper and adding a little bit more into it. And it goes over and over and over like that. And so from her perspective, she felt like, I've already learned this. Why am I having to learn this again? She wasn't necessarily seeing that they were adding in more depth. However, about halfway through the year, she figured out that she could speed up Nicole's videos so that she was going through the videos faster. And that really worked for her brain. She was still understanding the concepts, and she was happier watching the videos at double speed. And so I allowed that, and she finished her math, and well, almost. We're finishing it over the summer. We have like 5 lessons left, but she completed most of it. She successfully completed 6th grade math. In my mind, what we're doing now is like the review section, and I'm just having her do it to keep her brain fresh over the summer. But I was happy with it. I feel like Saxon paired with Nicole the Math Lady works really well for our family. I loved the online grading. I loved that I could set it to allow her to try again. So it gives like instant feedback, no, that's wrong. And then she would have to go through and try it again. And because I was homeschooling 4 students, I just didn't want her to go through an entire math lesson and get a bunch wrong and not realize it. And then once the end of the day comes around and I'm checking it, she's realizing I'm realizing, and then I'm telling her that she's getting it all wrong. And that's not very effective for us. And so I really love that it's like got the online grading and it's instant feedback, and she can do it pretty independently. I do need to help her from time to time, and I'm of course happy to help her, but I want her to be able to go and start her math whenever she wants to. If she gets up at 6 a.m. and wants to do her math, I want her to be able to do her math. So that was a win. Okay, let's talk about electives / enrichment. She did a few things this year. One of the things she did was Hoffman piano. We had used this a couple years ago, and we just used the free version, and it was not much of a success. But this time we used the like plus version, the paid version, and that incorporates like games and practice sessions. And it also gives access to all of his books that go with the lessons. And that really made for an effective program. I just said do like a lesson a day or 10 minutes of practice a day. We didn't do like hour-long sessions every day of piano, just little chunks, and she enjoyed it. And I just was so happy to see her just randomly go to the piano and play and make music and be creative in that way. She also did take dance this year. She did jazz and hip hop, and we just had a recital. So I feel like summer is officially started now because recital season is over. And she enjoyed that as well. It was good exercise. It was PE for her, but it was also a social outlet, an opportunity for her to be around other girls her age and make friends and get out of the house. And so that was really great. At the beginning of the year, I shared that we were not going to continue with Girl Scouts and that she was only going to do dance, but we did end up changing that. She did not go back to Girl Scouts, but she did end up joining Adventure Club through our church, which is similar to Awana, from my understanding. I've never done Awana, but it's similar, I guess. And so they would meet once a week, and she really loved that. She was at like the top end. We had never done it before, and it goes to 6th grade. And so it was her last year. She enjoyed it though. She had a lot of fun. They did a lot of like memory verse type stuff, and she won a bunch of prizes. So that was really fun as well. History and science we did together as a family, and I will be covering that video soon. I have already shared my 8th grade homeschool recap. After the 6th grade homeschool recap, I'll be sharing 3rd grade and TK, and then I'll go over family studies where I will share how our history went, our science, our geography, etc. But that's all. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching. I'd love it if you would give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time. Bye.